With all this information out there about football nutrition, how are you meant to know what's actually accurate and what's not? You've got the keto diet, vegan, this type of fasting, that type of fasting, the list goes on. There's so much contradicting information out there, it's actually quite difficult to keep up. And for a lot of players, I can imagine it's difficult to know and understand what's actually accurate. So let's take a step back, discuss it, and talk about the truth. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the ugly truth about football nutrition. And why is this secret so ugly? That's because the truth about football nutrition is boring and extremely bland. And before you click off this video because you're expecting some secret magical diet that will get you a six-pack within 12 hours, think again, because I'm going to be telling you exactly what you need to eat as a footballer in order to feel good and play good. And in the meantime, by doing this consistently, you might even accidentally build yourself a six-pack as well. So for nutrition, specifically for footballers, there are three main components you need to consider for your diet. And the three components you need to consider are proteins, carbohydrates, and vegetables/fruit. And if you stick this into your mindset that for every single time you sit down to eat, you try and get all three of these components in each meal, you're going to do extremely, extremely well. So when you're planning out and creating a meal, think about finding a source of protein, a source of carbohydrates, and a source of either vegetables and or fruits. And like I said, if you do this for every single meal, you'll do very, very well. You'll always feel good, which will lead to performances. And it's pretty much that simple. So just for example, a basic dinner, a source of protein, chicken, turkey, lean beef, etc., etc. Carbohydrates, if you can, get complex carbohydrates, not simple carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates consist of brown pasta, brown rice, stuff like that. And fruit and veg, so broccoli, to create the traditional broccoli rice and chicken. I said try and get complex carbohydrates in as much as you can instead of simple carbohydrates. Now there are a time and place to make the most of the benefits of simple carbohydrates, whereas a majority of the time you get a quicker boost of energy from simple carbohydrates, and a banana would come under the category of simple and complex carbohydrates because you do sort of get an energy boost relatively quickly from that. So before a training session or a match, some simple carbohydrates would do you very well. But in the long term and your overall nutrition, you should be aiming to get in more complex carbohydrates than simple. And like I said, whole grain carbohydrates do fall under this tab. So replace your white bread for brown bread. Replace your white pasta for brown pasta, even though white pasta is good as well. And then finally, fruit and veg. Obviously, you know all about that. There are countless amounts of fruit and vegetables you can try, combine, and eat. Now, the actual amount of food does depend on person to person, workload to workload, and many other factors. But as a rule of thumb, I don't think it's necessary for a majority of players to count their calories. If you just eat until you feel good, then you're doing well. For example, on your off days, you can lower your calories. If you know within the next day or two you're going to be upping your workload slightly, you can up the amount of calories you're having. Also, you've probably heard the phrase carb up quite a lot within this world of football. And that essentially means before match days specifically, you would tend to eat more carbohydrates than usually. So 2 days before, day before, and on match day, slightly increase your carbohydrates more than you usually eat, just to fuel up more efficiently for that match. So that was a very basic rundown of nutrition for footballers. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this gave you some clarification on all of this weird information you hear out there. I hope you learned a thing or two and enjoyed this video, and I shall see you in the next one.